very serious, so thank you all for coming down to this talk with some of our incredible artists that we've invited to the event this year. The artists on the panel are largely represented in this gallery and also in the field.
My name is Katia and I'm a comic book illustrator, and I've just started getting into visionary art myself. My medium is ink and pencil. My question is, how essential do you feel the use of psychedelics and psychotropics? How essential do you feel that is, or can you reach these through meditation and through other ways, or do you feel as though that's a direct catalyst and essential?
Can I just start real quick? Yeah, because that's a really good question, because obviously of all of the art in here is definitely relates to the visionary experience that is induced through the use of psychedelics, and it is kind of hand in hand with this type of work. And even my work, I would say, relied very much on its origins from the use of that to understand our nature of the reality. But personally, I feel like it's something, and even heard Andrew talk about it, that it's not essentially necessary. Except for, I do see that there is some relationship in the original process, but it's not to have to be relied on and be used all the time to keep getting this vision. Once you have a connection and understanding, then it's just, they're like training wheels, and it's they're as limiting as they are powerful. And once understood in that way, you get from them all the power, but then you don't rely on it because it's limited. You need to just go truly into your own abilities and God's self to manifest, what you now understand through the use of them.
Because I trained in traditional methods for visioning first and learning psychic art without psychedelics, without medicine, without assistance, it's a slow, disciplined process, and it's strong. Your vision is quite strong, you can go back to it regularly. I then became very ill and medical arena gave up on me, so I went to ayahuasca, and that has catapulted the art experience for me. The visions are so much stronger, but they're harder to grasp and more complicated to paint. So I would say that both paths are beautiful and valid, and it depends on your devotion and discipline, and yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I guess when it comes down to just the topic of psychedelics and art, I find it impossible to separate the two. And I think that art, I'm kind of a fan of the stoned ape theory, and I think that art was actually a direct result of the psychedelic experience. I think that all art lends itself to being psychedelic. For my digital art, the computer is a psychedelic tool. They created the microchip on acid, so everything that I do, it's impossible to remove the element of psychedelics in what I create. I've had a long relationship with them. It's been definitely up and down over the years. Depending on when you would have asked me this question, I'd give you a completely different answer. But today, I do see psychedelics as tools. They're very valuable, and they're also very dangerous tools. It's like a chainsaw. If you know what you're doing, you know how to use a chainsaw, you can create some really, you can do a lot more without a chainsaw, but it can also cut your hand off. So I think that if you are to approach psychedelics as a tool, it's important to have a lot of discipline in that. It's important to know that at the end of the day, you are the medicine, that nothing... I do go back and forth on this, and think this is a larger question for the group. There is kind of a school of thought that psychedelics are a shortcut. I've heard that word used a lot. They're a shortcut, that you can achieve these same sort of states through discipline and meditation and fasting, and that may be true. In my experience, I don't have that discipline. My meditation is not that strong. The places that I can go through combining psychedelics, I can't ever, nor I would ever want to imagine that I could achieve those things without the use of anything external. So I guess to wrap that up, they can be very powerful tools, and they can be, when approached with respect and definitely with intention.
come from a different perspective. I hardly use psychedelics. I do tend to meditate, but I also think that there are other things. It's all a question of activating the pineal gland, and it does help if you don't take fluoride, which calcifies the pineal gland, and it does help to clean your body, if you know what I mean, because you can, you know, get the same downloads and creativity. So I mean, I have had a little bit of ayahuasca and things like that, which is amazing, but I can't say I've had enough that's influenced my work. It just depends on the individual. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that psychedelics can be, some people use them as a tool to access higher states of consciousness. I have experimented in the past, but I have not used them for about 5 years. So recently I've been sort of experimenting with different ways to envision.
I think it depends if your inspiration is coming from a change of state or a change of trait. You know, psychedelics can induce very powerful temporary changes of state, which can be a very fertile ground of inspiration because they're revelatory experiences. And they also have rich aesthetic sensibilities. It's like libraries of akashic aesthetic templates that can be found within these experiences, and also very strong emotional and psychic movements in the being, which can also give fuel to the artistic process. But for me, you know, what psychedelics kind of taught me was how to pray. So in these really powerful experiences, I would need to find my orientation to my sense of the divine, and to unity and to love, and to clean out my house. And because they kind of taught me in that way, I can use that orientation, that true north, as a kind of guide outside of using them. You know, they were teachers for me. And no doubt they've still got a lot to teach me, but to say one needs them, you can reach the same place with a week of silent meditation in a natural environment. You can. And in fact I've found that the trait changes that can come from a deep contemplative practice can be a bit more integratable and longer lasting, more abiding than one psychedelic journey. But you know, I have immense gratitude to the plants and their message for us. So it seems part of the times, the zeitgeist that we listen to the natural world, and the plants are, the power plants are the voice of the plant kingdom. So they have much to teach us. They kind of squash us into a healthy, smaller state of, more humbled state of being with the natural world, and I think that's just what we need right now. So.
Can I ask a kind of broad question? I'd just be really interested to hear your like your artistic influences as far as other artists go, like
either living or dead, maybe a couple from each. That would be
I feel like I'm sat with some of my inspirations right now, so that's exciting. Yeah, you know, life is the inspiration ultimately, but there are people who've really gone very deep. You know, Botticelli, Da Vinci. You know, these people have conjured sublime beauty. Carlo Crivelli as well. Early Renaissance. Some of the stuff before they actually discovered perspective is in some ways quite interesting, because they were just going by their perception rather than a kind of engineered understanding of how we perceive distance. And then the symbolists, and Max Ernst particularly, you know, he's classified as a surrealist, but he was really outside of the, you know, the surrealist André Breton's conceptual framework. He just kind of did his own thing. What I like about Max Ernst is he made every piece an experiment. He doesn't really have a style. You know, every time he would paint, he would be innovating and testing something out. And I really respect that. And then there is Ernst Fuchs, who's a Viennese artist, grew up in war-torn Vienna, and his work also changes a lot through his lifespan. Can't really say he has a style. He has many styles, and he also is kind of like the great-grandfather of much of the visionary art movement as we see it now. I was talking about these Akashic libraries of aesthetics. You can really see them in his masterpieces. You can study them, and there are hundreds of different experiments going off in one picture. It's incredible. And then there's all the second generation visionary artists that came from Ernst Fuchs, like Robert Venosa, who, you know, also has taught many people. And, you know, to the present day we have, you know, Android Jones, whose work is taking this, you know, kind of classical sensibilities and that, you know, ability to draw and render, and taking it into the electric, you know, which I really respect. And Kuba, you know, he's working incredibly with, you know, intuition and channeling. Andrew Gonzalez, who's someone that I've started having a bit of a teacher-student relationship with, learning his technique with the airbrush. He's also a major inspiration of mine.
My dad was my first inspiration. He was actually an artist as well, and he was a surrealist as well. He did little drawings, pencil drawings and things like that. And that was my first sort of introduction to the art world, I guess. Then I discovered an artist named Zdzisław Beksiński. He's a Polish painter. I was really blown away by his images. It was the first time I'd seen an image that actually gave me goosebumps. It gave me a visceral reaction, you know, in my body. Yeah, whenever an artwork sort of is really powerful and then moves you, yeah, you can really feel the power of the influence of what the artist has put into an artwork and how it affects you. But I was also really influenced by a lot of the artists of the past, I guess, the old masters, Dürer, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and yeah, likewise also some of the school of Vienna fantastic realist artists. Yeah. Bonny?
For me, it's as well as art books and art magazines that are out there that have really influenced my work, because I spend hours looking at all these amazing art books. I'd have to say Metamorphosis is an amazing collection of visionary artists out there, and also Dreamscape, a collection of what they call imaginary realism, phenomenal artists in there. And then of course I suppose the magazines, High Fructose and